What's going on, everybody? Wednesday. So, everybody watched Snow Lord's video? We'll give a double live, right? I didn't think he was going to go live today. I was busy. Usually it's early in the day, and then I noticed that he did a live. So we'll go back and watch the replay. So if you haven't seen his video, go back and watch the replay, because that's what I have to do, is watch the replay. But we don't get live very often. We do have a quick minute to where we're not that busy right now. So we'll do a little bit of live here, and we'll talk about the economy and things like that when trucking. There's a lot of places going out of business. That's because they don't keep their numbers to where they should be. They have all of their eggs in one basket, especially if they're dedicated. And let's say they're in the automotive field or whatever, and if GM goes on strike, Ford goes on strike, Chrysler or whatever, especially if it's big three, and if they have all their stuff in there, like Falcon did years ago, that's the quickest way out of business, is dedicated freight. That does work for a lot of big companies because it gives them security per se to run their business, and everything above that is just profit. We're not going to get into some other things about profitability and how much percentage of profit that you should get and things like that. That's up to the individual, and especially if you're in the spot market, is how well you negotiate. Just because they tell you, and here's a famous tactic, and don't fall for this tactic. That's all we got in it. And don't fall for the tactic of, well, we're losing money on the load. Right, we're giving you extra, we're losing money on the load. Don't fall for that either, because they're not losing money on the load. They're not in the business to lose money. The broker's not going to lose money on the load. Now, is there instances where a broker could lose some money on a load? Of course, but that's because they have multi-loads, which means they might have 10 loads going from one customer to the other customer, and they moved 8 of them for whatever profit that they are getting, right? They moved 8 of them, they have 2 left, and to keep the customer happy and to move their product like they promised they'd move it, if they moved it all for everything they had in it, where they're not making no money on those 2 loads, it's okay because they made money on the 8 before those 2. Or if they lost a little bit, the 8 they moved gets them their profit, even with losing a little bit on two loads. So they're never losing. Don't fall for that, right? Don't fall for it, and don't fall for that's all we have in it. It's all about sales. It's all about negotiating, right? It's all about negotiation. Know your worth, and tell them why you're worth that much. If they say, oh no, that's too much, well, tell them why. You can give this load to somebody else that doesn't speak English, you can't communicate with them, and so forth. And that's another part of trucking you get into. You can always have an argument about, the regulations about what it takes to get a CDL. And, the country doesn't even follow their own regulations, and they give CDLs out, right? So, negotiate, learn that art. Don't always go to the click and go systems. Yes, they're easy. Yes, they're nice because you don't have to talk to that person. Because let's face it, you could be talking to a broker on the other end of the phone that has no experience, knows nothing about trucking, right? Knows nothing about what it costs to operate a truck. Because if you look at the two businesses, if you look at owning a truck and trailer to owning a brokerage, there is a huge difference in responsibility, and in the cost to do business, right? There's a huge difference. You have more risk as the owner, operator, and carrier than you do as a broker, right? You have more of the risk. You have more of the expense. Because you could look at the expense. Some brokers, if they, let's say you want to start a trucking company. How much does it cost? Anybody know? Depends on the equipment, right? That's your major expense. The equipment and the insurance, if you can get insured or not. Those are the major expenses. So let's just look at right out the gate. You know, if some guy or gal bought a $75,000 truck, middle of the road truck, $25,000 trailer, they got $100,000 invested. It might cost them 20% to get going, so that's $20,000 plus the authority. They might have to put up another $5,000 to $10,000, you know, to get the authority going with the insurance and everything. So that they could have $30,000 invested right out of their pocket, to where a brokerage, you know, everybody's got a computer, right, at home, so there's no expense there. But if you want to go buy one, you can get one down in the $150 range on up to, you know, $50,000 if you want to go to a Mac Pro fully loaded out type of thing. But most people can get by with, you know, the $1,000, $700 computer from Best Buy to run that business, because you don't need a whole lot. And to get the bond, anywhere from $700 to $1,500 a year, maybe $2,000 tops, depending on your credit, that type of thing. So for about average of about $2,000, you're in business. That's it. You're in business. Now you got to go out and, you know, do the footwork and get your customers and things like that. But look at the cost difference. And there is no maintenance, right? There is no maintenance, you know, fuel, oil changes, tires, all the other maintenance, and all the risk of every day driving up down the road than someone that, let's say, works out of their house and sits there and types on a computer. So know your worth, right? You're worth more than that guy or that girl, because you have the equipment that has to get the job done. So know what your expenses are, run the business accordingly. Now, in times like it is now, the ones that survive this environment is the ones that know their cost. They know their cost per day. They know what it takes to pay for everything at their household, everything with that truck, all the maintenance, everything. They know their cost per day. So as long as they adhere to that cost per day, they will always be in business. The ones that don't know their cost per day and they use cost per mile, those are the ones that usually fail, because cost per mile is super variable and there's too many unknowns with it, and you can't make up miles, right? Because if you're doing it solely on miles and the cost per mile, you got this cost per mile on what miles? 6,000 a month, 8,000, 10,000? You know, let's say it's 10,000 miles a month, and you go 3 weeks and you're sitting 2 or 3 days. There's no way you're going to make those miles up. None. So you're in the hole. Let's see here. Should I call TQL? Let me see here. I got to answer this for a carrier. Has a load of onions, right? A load of onions. Says freeze protect. The lows are going to be around 29 and 30. Highs are going to be 55. There's nothing going to hurt those onions in a dry van trailer at that because of the heat, right? They're going to hold the heat during the day, and that trailer will never get to below the freezing mark through those few hours of the night, right? It's just like water and things like that, hauling water in the wintertime. I mean, if it gets up to 34, 35 degrees during the day and 32, 31, it's not going to freeze that water, especially if you leave the truck running and keep the liquid moving in there. Now, onions, right, shouldn't hurt it, because if it's 55 during the day, by the time it gets to below freezing, it's only going to be below for just a few hours. And there's no way it's going to drop the temperature in that trailer, not when the product is in there, it's in the 50s, right? It's just not going to do it. But that's the way it is. And if you have one of the loads and you really worried about it, you could always stick a heater back there, right? You could open the door up, close, and put a heater back there, and that would do it too. So they're not going to put it on your trailer if they know it can't be done, right? Because then that goes for the risk of the shipper too. The shippers know on their product, especially if they get into produce and things like that, of what the temperatures are going to be, where it's going, and they'd say no. And then that's the broker too. If the broker knows his product, knows his customer, then he's going to say, well, we need a reefer for this because there's no way it's going to last, right? So we want a reefer for this, and they're not going to let a van haul that. But anyway, let's see what we got. I didn't even paying attention to comments. I don't even know if any comments came through. I don't have any comments on this page here. Froze my onions off last week. That's from a Facebook user there. I don't know. I don't have the other comments coming through for some reason. They're not flowing through here. So let me take that box off there. Take that box off. All right. So I'll just look at this right here real quick. This other screen I got. To open a truck company is around $40,000 if it's used. Broker is around $10,000 if they get an office. Well, Jose, that's not true either. $10,000 is not. It depends on where you at. California, you can rent office space for $400, but why even do that if you're a broker just starting? Most of them start right out of their house. Why have that extra expense when you got a house? If they have a house or even an apartment. Because all they're doing is phone calling everything. No one goes to their place. Or they can go out and hit the streets, right? And hand out their materials to shippers and things like that. I personally, if you're going to do that to save money, you'd open out of your house. But you can find an office space for $400 to $500 a month. Because most office buildings will rent you spaces like that for that. So initial cost right there be $400. The insurance doesn't cost you that much. Average is about $1,200 to $1,300 middle of the road to get that bond when you first start, and then of course you're to get your numbers. So about $2,000, $2,500 tops. So it's huge difference. Huge, because not only that, you don't have the cost of repairs and everything. Because right off the bat, right, what can happen to a carrier? So a guy gets his trailer gets going down the road, and first thing he has is a breakdown, or he blows a tire, right? Let's say he goes down the road and he goes over some railroad tracks and it blows 2 tires. You're looking at $1,000 right off the bat. Boom, there it goes. What's the broker's expense? On if he books a load with somebody and there's not that expense, right? They don't have that risk. They don't have that risk of, a motorist running into the back of the trailer or running in the truck, or the truck getting an accident, or they don't have that risk of, let's say the turbo goes out and it's $7,000 to $8,000. There just isn't that risk. So it's a lot easier business to open. Now, is it easier to make money? Absolutely not. Right? A carrier, it's easier to make money because you can get on any of the load boards and start hauling freight. Yes, right off the bat, you might be limited on who will work with you, but that goes with the broker side too. Right? Because a lot of these guys and gals out there are using factoring companies, and if a factoring company sees that a brokerage is 6 months or less, a lot of times they won't even approve them. So it might be harder for that individual to, he might get a nice contract with a shipper, but he might have problems of getting it covered because has no credit with anybody. Now, if they're with a funding company, then it's okay, because then usually their funding companies for brokerages will, do quick pay, with the carriers that haul that person's loads. So, it's harder to make money with the brokers right off the bat, because you have to get out there and do all the legwork and find a customer, compared to a carrier where all you got to do is get on a DAT board, 123LoadBoard, truck stop, any of those load boards, and you're off and running. Huge difference on money you can make, or how easy. I'll put it this way: it's a big difference on how easy it is to start making money. We can agree on that, right? It's easier to make money if you buy a tractor trailer to get jobs than it is for a broker to get jobs if you're just starting, because you know, you can just go to one platform and there's the loads are, and you find somebody to haul the load, to where it's harder to get into that shipper's door or that customer's door and let them give you the work when they've already got somebody doing it for them, right? You have to go in there and sell yourself. You have to sell them something. You have to sell them why you're better than the people they're using already to try to get that business. So it's a harder game to crack. 5-year return on just the authority investment alone, says TJ. What else we got? If a person gets their own authority in today's market, how long, in your opinion, will it take on average to get the return on that said initial investment? It depends, TJ. It could be a lot, right? Depends on their investment, because some guys could start out and not have a whole lot out there when they get their authority. They might only be $2,000 or $3,000 with the insurance and everything, because they might have got their truck with no money down. They might have got a trailer with no money down. Depends on credit. So that just depends on that initial investment. All right, so if you got a $40,000 initial investment, you can get all that back in a year, as long as you run well, you get decent paying freight, your numbers, you don't have a whole lot of home expenses. You can easily bank that kind of money in a year, but it just depends. Everybody's business is different. So some people could take 2 years, some could take 3. It just all depends. TJ, $20, man, come on. What are you doing? Thanks for the lunch. Okay, well, I wish I could put your comment up here on the screen. For some reason, this is not bringing in the comments from YouTube. It's only bringing in from Facebook. I don't know why that's not connecting, but it is what it is. So, is it the worst that I've seen? Well, yes, in an aspect of number of people going out of business, number of big companies going out of business, especially hitting brokers. There's another one going out. There is another trucking company that filed bankruptcy. They're pretty big in certain markets. So yes, it is pretty bad in that aspect. In 32 years now or something, I lost track, but it's over 30 years in this business, and it is really bad. And when I say that, hasn't been a raise in trucking, there hasn't been a raise in trucking. Yes, drivers have had raises. Those are company drivers. Company drivers have had raises. Owner-operators have not had raises. Period. And no one can say they did. Period. Because if they did, there would never be $1.25 a mile freight, correct? Can we all agree on that? Because you go back in the early 1990s and you could haul freight at $1.25. If there was a raise, it would never get to $1.25. Ever. And don't bring, BS supply and demand in it and all that. That has nothing to do with it. We're talking raise. So 30 years ago, you could haul for $1.25. 30 years later, still got cross-country loads wanting to pay $1.25 in today's environment. There is no raise there. Can we agree with that? There is no raise there? Actually, it's a loss. You've lost money. It even pays less. Why? Because look how much more everything cost. You go back in the early 90s, you get diesel for 80, 90 cents a gallon. Now it's $4 or $5, $6, $7, depending on where you're at. Tolls were half the price back then. What else? If the taxes, tires. Back then you could get turbos installed and everything for $1,000. Now they're $8,000. Brake jobs were, $150, $200. Now they're $2,000. It go on and on and on with the cost difference. So actually, it's a pay decrease. It's a pay decrease, not increase. Plus you have DF, correct. Plus now you got extra crap to throw in there to add onto the top. Right? You got DF to buy now. And that was like $1 something a gallon at first come out. Oh yeah, it's cheap. Now they're like, oh well, we can really rake them over the coals. Let's charge $3 now. And back then parking was free everywhere. Now they want $15, $20 to park. Showers were free. Then they went to $3. Then we're $5. And then they went to $7, $10, $15. So all the expenses went up for trucking, but the rates have never gone up. The rates have never gone up to equal the price difference of everything. Because if it did, there wouldn't be 2,000-mile runs paying $1.25 or $1.30, because 20, 30 years ago, that's what you could get. So there you go. What's up, Rockin' Van Life? What's going on? Shadow Wolf in the house. 20 years ago, 2,500 repair clutch. This week costing 7,600. That's right, Jose. And the rates are the same as 30 years ago, right? They are. Yeah, we had a big boom there for a while, when the COVID thing and all that, COVID, you had the low rates and stuff, which were basically like they are now. I mean, they were hitting rock bottom like that. And then all of a sudden, when everything started busting loose, we had that really good time period there to where, it was $3.54, $5 a mile everywhere you went. Now we're back down there to the lowest levels around, right? We're back down in that area. So, and brokers just hurt themselves, right? They hurt themselves because people ask, well, if, how these big brokers are going out of business when they're making billions of, say, well, if they're keeping all this percentage and everything, how are they doing it? Well, because they're using the receivables to pay their stuff, and they're trying to do it on volume. And when they've done this and they're owing 30, 40, 50, 60 days before they're paying, and then the market goes in a tank, the receivables coming in doesn't equal what they spent on that other money. So they're starting to lose money, right? They're starting to bleed money. And the market didn't come back fast enough. So they're bleeding faster than the money coming in, which makes it an inevitable part of filing Chapter 11 or Chapter 7. So it's a new era, right? It's a new era. What's going on? What's up, Big Face Trucker? Was in the house. 52 views and 16 likes and all that good stuff. Yeah, so LVC, say it, Jeff. Back in my day. Yeah, well, that's right, LVC. Back in my day, right? We're hauling for the same price as today. Back in my day. So where's the raise? And you'll see a lot of companies, and it's already came out, right? Drivers are starting to take pay cuts. These big mega carriers, people like to call them, are having to cut driver pay. Why? Because they're not making the money. Not even on their direct customer, they're not making the money. So they got to cut it somewhere. And who pays the price? The driver, of course. And that's what you see right now, right? If you were on that auction, I signed up for the auction. I didn't get to go in there because I got busy. And I was going to go in there and watch the auction and on those trucks from that company in trailers, and I was going to buy, maybe 1 or 2 trucks and a couple trailers. If you get them at a, really, really, really pennies on the dollar price. But I got busy and missed the auction. But there'll be another one, right? There's going to be another one. That's just like with trailer sales. A month ago, my trailer guy I use up here, one of them, oh yeah, we still got those 2 new ones here. You want one? Well, how much you want for it? Well, we want 60. So you ain't gonna get 60. You're trying to get it back when COVID garbage around and there was no trailers. You guys are gonna have to eat. You're gonna have to take a loss on that trailer. If you pay the factory 50 grand, guess what? That trailer's only worth 39 right now. New. And anybody gives you 50 is out of their mind. Because now, I got several emails the other day. Brand new ones, 250 trailers coming into this dealership. And they're trying to blow them out at 39 grand. Brand new. So anybody that bought a used trailer for more than, they're underwater. Because some of these guys sold their trailers for 40 or 50 grand, which was smart, right? Liquidate some of your older assets for big money, hold that money, rent a trailer, and then when the trailers come back down, you get a brand new trailer, and you got cash in your pocket. That would be a smart business move, right? Kind of same thing with a truck. If you had a truck back then and you owed 50 grand on it, you could have sold it for 125, pocket 75 grand, sit on the sidelines. Now you can come back in and get a really, really nice truck for that, probably with 1/3 of the miles on it that you had on the one you sold for that big price, and you're better off in the game. So you just got to take advantage of, when something like this happens. So that's why I'm still sitting on the sidelines. I'm waiting for the prices to go even down lower. Used trailers are going way down. People ask me all the time if I want to buy their trailers. I don't want to buy their trailers because I cannot give them what they owe on them. I'll give them half is what I'll give you half because I know that's where I can get that trailer from in another couple months. I don't need to go get trailers. I can rent them all day long. Even those, are plentiful now. Used to you couldn't even get one. Now they're like, hey, we'll rent you brand new ones for the same price as the used ones. It's a different ball game right now. So just hold on, people. If you're in the market for trucks and trailers, hold on. Hold on another month or so and see the price drop. Save yourself some money. And interest rates might drop too, right? We got an election coming next year. So these high interest rates and home mortgages and commercial loans and all that, they're going to go down because not going to have a chance of getting back in office if you don't do something to drive down some diesel price, gas price, and interest rates. Because the interest rates keep going up, no way you're getting back in office. No way. Jose says, 36 years ago I was making $1 a mile and made money. Now I'm making the same. Exactly, Jose. That's what I was talking about. When I said trucking has not had a raise in 30 years, they have not had a raise in 30 years because if they did, they would not be making the same per mile on these loads. Period. That's like I gave a example, like a shop worker, right? 30 years ago, what did they make? 10, 12 bucks an hour. Now they're at 28 to 30 bucks an hour. They just gave a 25% pay raise, plus the benefits and all that good stuff. Car companies making record profits. All these people making record profits, and all the goods are transported by truck, but the truck isn't making record profits. Why is that? Because it went to free market, and now it's called negotiation skills. And I hate to say it, but a lot of people get in this business that know nothing about cost of running the business, and they don't have the negotiation skills. So, if you're fighting with a middleman and you are negotiating with that person, you got to be a better negotiator. But then it's hard to do when you got, millions of trucks out there. You could have hundreds of trucks calling for the same load, and they know that they're going to find somebody that doesn't know that skill, and they're going to get it moved for a lot less money. That's just the nature of the beast. If you stick to your guns, you'll get the money, right? You'll get a broker that'll give you the money, because they'll want to move. Plus, if you have a really good, reputation with them, and they know you get it there, they know they don't have to babysit you and all this stuff. They don't have to worry about your product. You're a great communicator. They know if something happens to your truck, you have a breakdown, you're going to call them right away. To me, that's worth a lot of money. So you give that load, and you sacrifice your bottom line a little bit, and you give that guy all the money he wants. You don't have to worry about it. And then the ones that don't know their costs and don't know how to negotiate, then I guess that's where you make more money. Our country's headed down. Look at our debt and how many people are spoiled to the good times. Good times being us soft people. That's true. Most mega carriers were publicly traded companies and answer to shareholders. That's right. Welcome back. That's right. And you got to look at that too. So if you're looking up how much a trucking company profit is and how much a brokerage profit is, there is a huge difference. I mean, if you look at, let's say, a C.H. Robinson, and you go through their sheet, their spreadsheets and everything, and you see on the SEC their filings, and you see that they made a 6% profit or an 8% profit, they're making a whole lot more than 8% on the loads, folks. That's not what that means. It's not what that means. Because when you get to the profit, that means all expenses. That means all the buildings that they own. That means everything. All the people they pay. Everything is taken out of that, and they ended up with a profit. What's up, Cool Trucking? How's it going? Now let me go over here and see. I wish this other one worked right here, but we only got the one thing. I can't get it to connect. So we'll work on that connection later, but let's just go through these here and see. Let me go back up. All right, we read through most of these. What's up, PJ? We read through most of those. So, if you're out there and you're an owner-operator, single owner-operator, doesn't matter if you're leased to a company or if you have your own authority, have something to track your expenses. Whether you do your own spreadsheets in Excel, if you got that ability, more power to you. Make your own spreadsheets. Doesn't cost you nothing that way. Or if you want to program, AXISTMS, that's going across the bottom of the screen. That's really good for fleets, especially. Owner-operators can also use that. And Trucking Office, that's down in the description too. They're another great program, for single owner-operators and such. Those are great tools. And there's plenty of other ones out there. But have some type of tool to track your expenses. Know your daily cost. Because if you know these, then you can minimize the risk, the financial risk. For people that don't know their expenses, they just know their cost per mile, they're more likely to go out of business than the guy that knows their cost per day. Because every business has a cost per day. Every one. It works for every single business. Because every business has its daily cost. Whether you own your equipment or you owe somebody else for your equipment, there's still a daily cost to run that business. So, have something that helps you out. Plus, it's easier at tax time. If you want to save money, and I get some phone calls, especially with contractors that work here. They're better, their boss will call me up and say, "Can I talk to you for a little bit? It's about taxes. It's about this. It's about we're a corporation. My accountant's doing this to me. They're charging me this much money, and can I do it myself?" And I says, "Sure, you can do it yourself. It's not that hard. I use these programs," and I tell them the programs I use. I said that it won't cost you. It costs you way less to use these programs, and it's all they're doing is plugging it into these programs or a program like it. So therefore, you could save thousands of dollars a year. That's one savings right there. And when it comes tax time to the taxes, you get this other program that's not that expensive, and you just plug the numbers. It's just plug and play. You take your spreadsheet, profit and loss statement from your business for the year, and plug the numbers into the other program, and it's done. And the one's a monthly subscription, and let's say it costs you $300 a year, and the other one you pay $60-$70. It does both your taxes, corporate and regular, and that's $70. So you could be less than $400 a year. And then some of these folks are paying $3 or $4 grand a year for an accountant when they could do it themselves, even if it's payroll, because there's payroll things out there, and I've probably got a link in the one that we use that is really inexpensive, especially for one person. And that does all the filings for you to the government, to your taxes for the states and things like that. So that helps you out too. LBC, use Lyrebooks will tell you what you want to hear. Money, money, money. I use QuickBooks, but it tells me I'm not making money. To me, you have to factor a combo of cost per day and per mile. Why do you got to combo that? That's what I like to know. Why do you got to combo that? It's nice to know your cost per mile. And if you use one of these trucking programs, you'll know your cost per mile. That's why that's a little bit better than a QuickBooks thing. I use both in conjunction, right? Because I have QuickBooks, and I also use a trucking program, and they're really nice and combined with each other because they'll integrate. But the trucking program breaks it down by mile, right? It'll tell you how much per mile, your cost per mile, and all that, where QuickBooks won't. But you can figure it out. Just do the calculation. But the cost per day is really all you need. It doesn't matter what the per mile is on these loads, because if you need $400 a day and you take a load that nets you $800 per day, you're making double what you need. Does it really matter what the rate per mile was? No, it doesn't. Now, if that rate per mile, let's say you say I need a rate per mile of $2.25 a mile, and the load pays $2. You don't haul none of the $2 a mile freight. There's people out there, right? They'll sit days and days. I'm not hauling for less than this per mile. Well, guess what? When they finally haul one, I got $2.75 a mile. Well, they didn't need $2.75. They need $6 a mile. Why? Because they sat for 2 or 3 days, and they didn't figure that in there, because all they figuring is, this is what I need, $2.25 a mile. But they pass up on all this other freight that they could make money on. But in their mindset, they have that mindset, the mentality, I'm not hauling cheap freight. I'm not hauling for less than this per mile. And of course, that cheap freight term is different for everybody. Different for everybody. If you look at cost per day and you run by cost per day, then you're not concentrating on what the rate per mile is. You're concentrating on what the load pays and how many days it's going to involve, and will you be profitable at the end of the day for those days you're on that run. For instance, if you get on a load that's 2,000 miles, takes you 5 days because it has 13 stops, but it pays you $8 grand. That's $1,600 a day that you be on the load. Take all your fuel out, take your percentage out, and say, okay, I need $300 a day to be profitable. At the end of the 5 days, I need $1,500. Then after everything's said and done, you net $3,000. That's double. It didn't matter if it paid $1.50 a mile or $3 a mile or $4. It didn't matter. The per mile doesn't matter. It matters on cost per day and how much that your business and your home expenses. That's why you put it all together. How much does that cost you per day to stay in business? Because, yeah, if you don't put your home expenses in there and everything you have at home, you're not doing your business justice. Because if you have no one else at home that makes money and you have to pay for all of it, then you need to include all of it. Yes, your business could be profitable on the business side, but not on the home front side. Because if you ain't making enough to pay your home bills, then the business is going to fail. Because bankruptcy is right there around the corner. Because you're either bankrupt business-wise or bankrupt personal-wise. So that's why you got to include it all, know that cost per day, and as long as you hit that number for every single day of the month, you're in business. Now let's see, got a text here. What's this say? Yeah, I wouldn't haul those onions if they got that. See, now what this big brokers didn't know is that this place puts temp recorders in there, and it says keep temp at 55 degrees. Well, you can't do that. You can't do that load, because if it gets down, let's say it gets down to 40, 35, 40 at night, there's no way to keep that at that degrees in a dry van trailer. Come on, that's just a claim waiting to happen, right? I'm gonna put in here, don't haul it. I'll tell them not to haul it. Help this other carrier out. Don't haul it. Haul something else. There's always something else that you don't have to worry about all that garbage, right? Lance says, you have fuel and wear and tear. There's more to do with mileage. Not saying cost per day is important. Just many factors. Well, no, Lance, that's why in business, so if you're in trucking and you have your last year's numbers and you had $25,000 maintenance, you got your cost per mile, you see that, but you have a number, right? So you can do maintenance cost. So in your cost per day, you have maintenance in there. So if you say on the average, it's $24,000 a year, then you can figure it out what it is per day for that maintenance. Just divide it by 365. So you add up your yearly cost of everything, house, everything, all your bills, divided by 365, that's your daily cost. And if you only run 20 days a month, because you want weekends off, then you divide it by 240. It's not rocket science. It's the easiest way to know what your number is to make money. Yes, could your expenses be more? Could it be less? Of course. But your rate per mile, it has way too many factors. Way too many factors. Because your cost per day is net after fuel. Net after fuel. So when you look at a load, and that load pays X amount of dollars, and you say, okay, it's going to take me 100 gallons of fuel, and you subtract the cost of fuel because you know what it is. It's there daily. You know what the cost is. You subtract that number. So if the load pays $1,000, you're getting all 1,000. If the fuel was $300, now you're getting 700. You know that number. And then your cost per day has your maintenance all built in. So as long as you hit that number, then that's that. Because if I look at all the years of owning the truck, and I take and say, okay, here's all the maintenance for all those years, I know exactly what the average maintenance for the truck is a year. And you can use mileage, right? You could say, okay, I average 100,000 miles a year, let's say. Then you go, okay, well, on a new truck for the first 2 or 3 years, I'm averaging around 6 cents a mile maintenance or 4 cents a mile maintenance for tires and all that stuff. You have an average cost there because if you have one of those great warranties, the big ones that cover 5 years or 6 years, pretty much everything on the truck, then your maintenance is basically oil changes and anything that's bolted onto the motor that they're not going to cover. So you can kind of add in a few more cents per mile, if you're doing the mileage thing for that. In other words, you just add it in for so many hundreds of dollars per month for your per day. They asked me to buy a heater, and I said no. Well, yeah, because the heater ain't going to keep it at a steady 55. That's a reefer. I just tell that broker, sorry, dude. Here's what I tell them. I tell a broker, put on the rate con, not responsible for keeping continuous temperature because it's a dry van. Broker accepts all responsibility. Put that on there and sign it and send it back to them. Have a line saying, you sign, broker, you sign your name to that, and I'll haul your load. And if they do, well, then you ain't got to worry about it. Right, have them sign you're not responsible for the product. Five trucks there from this big brokerage, and they're all having a problem, right? Have them sign saying you're not responsible for the product. And I've had brokers do that. We said, hey, this could freeze. And they send an email saying, we release carrier of all responsibility of the product. I've had that happen. So then we haul the load because they're taking responsibility. Because the broker could have their own cargo insurance. And they're saying, well, you know what, we'll take that hit if it doesn't. Because they might know that the receiver on the other end doesn't care that, there's a thing in there. They really don't go by that. There's a lot of unknowns that, that they don't relate to a carrier. So if they want to release you of all responsibility and put it in writing, then they release you of all responsibility. Jeff needs a band for a pizza shop. I do need a band. Yeah. Good news. Your pizza will be the Snorlord Supreme. What, you sending me some pizza? Jeff is quitting trucking and starting a pizza shop. Well, that's funny. The pizzeria right down here on the corner, I was going to buy it. And because it was really... They were selling it for really cheap. I mean, you can't even buy the equipment for what they were selling it for. Just trying to, get out of the business because they had a passing in their family, and that was the main person that did a lot of the stuff. So I told the boss, I said, hey, we should buy that pizza place, and then because we got a lot of, we got grandkids, they could work there, and back in the day. I managed some pizzerias when I was younger, way younger, right? So, shot that down, right? So, no, we're not doing that. You got enough to worry about. You got enough on your plate, which I do. So, didn't do that. And this lady bought the place that was 60 miles north of us, and she got it for a really good price. And then she had a pizza place up north. But she came down here a few times. All of a sudden, she started closing earlier and earlier. And I'm like, well, she's going out. They just did that for their books, to cook their books for this other place to, take a deduction for some money or whatever. And then they sold it to another pizza maker that's just south of here. And that young guy's a go-getter. So he paid her half of what she paid pretty much for it. So he got a really good deal. And he brought, his expertise in, and they're making money like gangbusters, right? They're really good product, really nice people, and good for them, right? Good for them. They're doing some good business. How do trailer heaters work? Well, Glenn, it's called you take a big long extension cord and you plug it into your generator, and you open the door of the trailer and you stick it back there overnight, and then in the morning you unplug it and you take it back out. That's how that works. That's how that works. Let me see what else we got going on. We got some more things coming in here. I was going to show you some loads and stuff on the load board, but we'll get into that some other time. Snorlord did that earlier. If you want to see that on the 123 load board, go check his video out. And of course, if you want the discount, you can always just use that code at the top and get everything they offer for the 35 bucks. Let me make sure that we don't have to sign a rate con here. All right, we got all these emails, man. Look at all these things. Yeah. All right, need to be taken off this load. All right. Unassigned from the load, okay. Yeah, that's another thing that, that's bad in this trucking business is, we have to sit there and we're at the mercy of these shippers and receivers. And, the brokers get mad at you, if they say, well, you got to be here at this time, do this, this, and this. But yet when you get there and these people, don't treat your time like it's worth anything, like, you're not worth anything, and you sit there all day long and then the broker just keeps making excuses. No, that's not how it is. Or they get mad because they really don't know the trucking industry, right? So basically, if you say, yeah, I got a 3 o'clock in the afternoon pickup, I'm unloading at 8 in the morning, and they give you the load, and you're 10 miles away, but it doesn't do you no good if you're at a receiver that says, well, we'll get to you sometime today, you had an 8 o'clock number appointment, and you're sitting there, 6 hours later, 7 hours later, and they still haven't touched you. What can you do? And the best thing is communication, right? So always keep in contact with that broker. If you're there for 2 hours, let's say it's 10 o'clock now and you got 3, even though you're only 10 miles away, let them know. And let them make the decision on whether you stay on that load or not. Because it's about time, right? You're giving them plenty of time to cover it, to recover somebody to run it. And if they say, no, we're still good, and they come, check in every hour, and you check in every hour, and if at the last hour they take you up and try to move it, that's on them for taking all day, but at least you communicated, right? Let them decide what they want to do. It's their customer. They might know their customer and say, well, they're open until 10 o'clock at night, and they'll take you really any time after that. Just got to let them know when you'll be there. You don't know that. They know that, but you don't. So always communicate as far ahead of time as possible with the broker. More applications coming in. Okay. All right, so that's it for today. We'll do another video down the road. We're going to start doing some training videos. We will get back to the old school. We'll do some whiteboard sessions on the whiteboard back there, the old school style, and we'll show why cost per day is easier to calculate than cost per mile, and why it works, right? Why reinvent something if something works? And it works really well. So that's the method that I show. And I came up with that method years and years ago. And then no one even heard of it or talked about it or anything until I started doing it, and they tried to shoot it down. But we have hundreds and hundreds of carriers out there and owner operators that use that method, and they're still in business today. And there's hundreds and hundreds that use the cost per mile that aren't in business today. So I guess pick which method you really want to do. And we'll see y'all later. Let's see. Speed shifter, what's going on? Yeah, reefers and trucking. Mac the trucker says the only way, in my opinion. Hey Mac, give me a call. As soon as I end this live feed, give me a call. I seen you called, I think it was last night, but I was busy. Give me a ring as soon as I hit the off button. Talk to Big Mac today. Are you planning on offering lease purchase deals? Yes, we've done lease purchase deals already. Good time to some. Don, NAT. Don, did you buy NAT when I told you to buy NAT back when it was like $1.80 or $2 a share? Anybody that got an NAT, they're loving it right about now, right, Don? If you're talking about the stock, Nordic Tank Lines. Last I checked, they were like $4.64. They more than doubled in just, a short period of time. All right, so we're out of here. We will see y'all later. Let's end it with some schools in session. Why not? Let's hear the bell ring.